screen, and we'll kind of go from there. But I want to go ahead and kick everything off as people are starting to roll in. We have an amazing group of founders with us that are representing the 3536 award winners from Atlanta, from the Google for Startups Black Founders Fund. In many cases, this is, well, in all cases, to be clear, but in many cases, it's been a long journey for these founders. And the reality is that finally they're starting to get the recognition that they deserve based on their progress and their potential. So today we're going to cover a number of topics. Feel free, though, however, to drop your questions, your comments, whatever in chat. We'll look to answer them throughout the session today. We have about 90 minutes. If we need it, maybe shorter. We'll see. Maybe we go 3 hours. Who knows? I think this is an amazing thing. Okay, these founders don't have that amount of time. But I've had the pleasure of knowing a number of these individuals for a while, and I think I can speak. I don't speak on behalf of Google or Google for Startups, but I know Jewel really well, and I know she's super proud of this moment. Not just necessarily this panel per se, but all the things that's happened, especially as they wrapped up some programming here in Atlanta for them as well. So let's make this thing happen. This is a good conversation. I'm getting kind of emotional, that's why I can't talk like this. But for those that work with us, they know how it is. They know what I'm going to ask them at first in terms of doing their introduction. I'm going to kick it to I'm going to kick it to Carolyn and then Sean for the quick intro on her company, and she's going to tell you why you should care. So Carolyn, want to kick us off?
Sure. Thanks, Joey. Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn Pitt. I'm founder and CEO of Film Connects. We are the job marketplace for film that connects studios to vetted local crew, and why you should care. Not only are we making it easier for individuals in local production hubs to find work and enabling studios to save significantly on their production budgets by hiring locally, we're also helping to level the playing field for women and professionals of color who are underrepresented in the industry. It's a pleasure to be here with all of these fantastic founders and with you as well, Joe.
Awesome. Sean, and then Amanda.
Sure. I'm Sean Chavis. I'm the founder of Living Book. We offer customizable cookbooks for chronic conditions. And you should care because if we could get people to eat a healthy meal just 20% more often than they already do, it would save 3 million heart events every year, hundreds of thousands of cases of diabetes, and up to $47 billion a year in healthcare costs in the United States.
Awesome. Amanda and then Joyce.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Sabria. I'm the founder at STAT. STAT is a visibility and planning tool for software development engineering managers. So you should care because if you are building your own company and you're managing a group of developers or a team of developers, our tool helps you spot the risk in your software development project and how to better plan for sprints and feature builds. So we're going to help you get your product to market a lot more efficiently and at a lot less and save a lot of money.
Awesome. Please.
Good afternoon. Julius Bryant, co-founder and CEO of Jack's Rideshare Rentals. We are a digital marketplace that rents vehicles to gig workers. Why you should care? Because 40% of people who sign up for on a monthly basis don't have access to a vehicle. So we're allowing those people to be mobile and also have an opportunity to earn some income.
Awesome. And then Zaire.
Everybody, my name is Davion Zaire, aka Za. The work that we're doing at Origin is essentially empowering customers like you and I, people in our communities, to be able to source our daily essentials from within our own communities, as well as providing you with awareness tools so that you can actually see your economic footprint, to understand your spending by demographic and background, meaning that we not only have awareness, but a tool to actually make different decisions to drive different type of economy going forward. So why you should care? Well, many of us know that companies like Amazon, represent trillions of dollars, but then we also know that our communities represent trillions of dollars. And so when we talk about the future of our economics, we talk about the future of the state of our communities. it all ultimately falls back onto us. We can definitely keep doing the advocating for change on the policy level, but we each have a dollar that we can make a difference with. And so we're doing our best to make it as easy as possible for us to make those differences with our daily choices.
Nice, nice. And Yard, you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good to go. Can you do a quick intro for your company?
I'm Yared Alamu, founder and CEO of TQ Intelligence. We focus on children and adolescents from low-income communities as it relates to mental health treatments. And so what we do is use technology to augment therapists that are not as experienced. So we use a voice recognition technology and AI to quantify the severity of the emotional behavioral disorders and track treatment along as the kids go through the treatment process. So our research is funded by the National Science Foundation, as well as recently from the.
Awesome. So let's really get into the crux of the matter here in terms of what it means. For those that are just joining us, just logging in, the Google for Startups Black Founders Fund did several things. One, it gave between $50,000 and $100,000 in non-dilutive funding to these founders, meaning that they didn't have to give up any equity. It's not a grant, it's a cash award. And in addition, they received support from Google and also from Goody Nation, especially from Goody Nation on a continuous kind of ongoing indefinite basis. So let's talk about, really what this support from the Black Founders Fund, and this is anybody can actually. I'm going to kick it to Carolyn first, just as there's a little bit of order here, and then we can anybody can kind of just jump in after that. What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your business to receive this award?
Yeah, it's absolutely game changing for Film Connects to get this award from Google. I can speak for myself and for a lot of other founders of color that, we tend to experience a triple whammy of having very little savings to be able to build a product and start a business, and having little to no friends or family fund available as other majority founders ordinarily access. And then having venture capital be very difficult for us to obtain. As I know Joey, 0.0006% of venture capital goes to Black women founders, and a total of 3% goes to women and Black and brown founders. And so knowing that challenge is there, and that we often don't come with a lot of generational wealth that we can access to build our businesses, getting this investment from Google means the world. Not only does it give us the capital and the access to the resources that you mentioned through Goody Nation, but it's credibility. This major organization says these founders and their businesses are incredible. We believe in them, and we're giving this seed capital to help them be successful and ensure that they have the access that they need to take their businesses to the next level and to scale.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can jump in really quickly too. And I'll just say, go ahead, Sean.
No, go ahead, Julie.
Okay, I was just going to quickly say, so as startup founders, oftentimes, more often than not, we're strapped for cash, right? We're sticking money into our businesses and trying to extend that runway and developing our product or service to increase the longevity of the business. I'll say specific to our business, though, we've had an issue with, in our line of work, we're providing a tool in the form of a vehicle to people who need these cars to go work, right? So we have a fleet of vehicles that is virtually always rented. We're at 97% capacity, and we get calls every single day of people who need vehicles so they can go work. And a lot of them we just can't help because we don't have enough vehicles. So this additional funding kind of accomplished that first goal of extending the runway of the business, but this also trickles into our communities because we're allowed to now acquire more assets and empower more people to use them to earn income.
Yeah, and I would quickly add to Julius, those are both great points, Julius and Carolyn. For us, we as a founding team made a vow to stay bootstrapped as long as we possibly can. And so with a big corporation like Google stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, we're going to give non-dilutive capital, I think that just sort of confirms our strategy of wanting to stay bootstrapped for as long as we can, and showing other people that they can bootstrap as well. And there are a lot of different avenues in which they can raise money or bring in capital. So we love being the example, and that's how it's helping STAT.
Let me just add one. So, the solutions that we're working on is fundamental to our community. It's not a, this is not a, we're not, most of us are not focused on things that are already exist. So there is these unique solutions that improve the quality of life to our community. And then on the top of that, we are innovating. So we use developing a technology that not many startups develop. So you're from a perspective of the vendors, we high risk. So I'm bold and I'm old. So that's one strike. And then we are focusing on people of color as a, and then that becomes, especially when they're poor, right? So, and they're high risk. So it's Google coming in and supporting. And for us, it's not just the money; it is the technical consultations that we're able to secure. It's been game changing. So there is not trying to have people obligated to support. It's just that that there's not enough recognition to the level of innovation and the impact that our solutions is going to make to our community.
Joey, it looks like you're muted.
About that, I think Sean may be on like a 2 or 3 second delay. So Sean, you want to go ahead and go?
Yes. Sure. So for us, we're also a bootstrapped company. So I really appreciated Google's funding. I underscore the things that Carolyn and Julius and Amanda have said. The other thing is not as tangible, but very important, is the energy that it's built around our company, both for my team. They've been very excited, and their energy is just heightened because of the investment that we've gotten, from Google. And it's not only been money, but also support. And then also with partners that we had in the pipeline, we're just even more excited. It led to more business and more business opportunities for us. So it's been the recognition just by having funding from Google has been very important, and just kind of energizing the community around us.
Nice. Yeah, and I'll just round it off for us. It's been interesting because everything that everyone's voiced here, being Black, being being young, honestly, you just put any identity thing on anything, you're gonna have something. So, but also I would add that we have when you add the impact layer, that's a whole other piece, right? So like for us, we've been really picky about funding because we've been at tables, we walked away from. I would say, traditionally this would be a good thing. We walked away from about $500,000 in venture capital. But the reason why we did that is because most of that money, we don't believe is compatible with our model, right? The integrity of our model. Like we want to be responsible for redistributing wealth across communities, not necessarily helping 1 or 2 people balloon wealth in one direction where we're having the same issue. And so what we realize is that there's these contracts, even if someone says impact investor, sometimes the terms don't actually do anything different from traditional venture. That's not the case across the board, but it is the case largely so. And so anyways, Google doing something like this, again, if there's anyone that works for other corporations or social responsibility or whatever it is, I definitely think it's something to take notes from, because Google went above and beyond, not just to provide, of course, there's the cash, non-dilutive funding for us to further what we're doing, but also the technical support, making staff available, providing space for therapy, providing space for us to come together in meaningful ways. And I just think that it's a really great example of how companies can make that kind of difference, given the amount of wealth. I mean, we're talking about companies that have GDPs of entire nations, and in terms of like the value and their accounts. So really grateful for this.
Yeah. So I want to drill down on a point several of you all either made or alluded to around credibility and the impact of it on your company. But before we do that, can you all drop some of your website links in the chat? Some of Christopher Sanchez would like to see some of your sites and stuff like that. And I'm assuming also maybe support as well. So yeah, let's drill a little bit down in terms of credibility. So we know, whenever especially if you're going to raise money, or you're looking to get a large company as a customer, it helps to have that logo on your website, on your pitch deck as a reference customer, or anything like that. Do any of you all have any examples of, after the announcement was made, maybe, you got a meeting that you didn't get before? Or I think Sean's had some technical difficulties. I'm sure she'll come back in. Maybe you got a meeting you didn't get before, or, an investor conversation advanced, or a customer conversation advanced, or something happened. Anybody, has anybody seen any impact of just the name Google for Startups, behind you helping your business?
We're in the process of applying. Go ahead.
Okay. I would say, yeah, definitely. We're not looking to raise right now, but we got a lot of investor inquiries. And, we're kind of in this phase where we are nurturing relationships with investors, but not looking to raise. So that was very helpful. But more importantly for us right now, we did get quite a few people that reached from companies like Instacart. That were saying, hey, I'm really interested in this. This is a problem, that we're looking to solve at our company. And it really was the that Google did that kind of got their attention on us. So yeah, it's been incredibly helpful. We put it at the center of our website because it does kind of pull people through the funnel, if you will. So it's been incredibly helpful.
Yeah, Art.
We finished up the phase one NSF grant, which is $250,000, and then we're applying for the phase two, which is $1 million. Part of the requirement is that after completing the phase one, we have to demonstrate that we can be able to raise money. Right? So this is ramifications above and beyond just $100,000 in terms of continuing to bring in the NSF money even after we completed the phase two. So Sarah, this is pretty significant.
No, that's huge. That's huge. So essentially, leveraging, the money you receive from Google to potentially go and get $1 million. I mean, that's real impact. I mean, that's real impact. I don't know, Carolyn, Julius, Zaire, you all have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd echo what they both said, both in terms of being able to illustrate on not quite the cap table, because again, it's non-dilutive, but it does illustrate that you are able to raise, that you are getting infusions of capital, once again, from, an organization that by itself lends credibility just by association. And in addition, yes, we have had more client conversations. We have had people reach in as well. We've had the privilege of being in a couple of Google programs as well. So we were in Black Founder Exchange as well as Atlanta Founder Academy. And so this award actually just deepens our relationship with Google and illustrates, the amount of faith and confidence that they have. So it has increased the level of activity that we've had on partnership side, client side, and investors.
Nice. And Sean, can you hear us? Okay. Can you say something? Just to make sure. Looks like we still can't hear you. And it seems like there may be a delay there still.
I can jump in the meantime. Oh, go ahead. Actually, we can.
I think I missed your question earlier.
Okay. Yeah. So essentially, it's around the impact that the Google name may have had on your company. So has it maybe helped out any with investor conversations, customer conversations, anything, just that credibility that the announcement of the Google for Startups brand has on you?
Definitely. There's definitely been some excitement among the investors that I've been talking with. I've had a lot of conversations with potential investors, just building relationships over the last few months. But getting this funding from Google has really kind of made some of them sit up and really take notice at our ability to fundraise and to kind of help us stand out from the pack. They're all talking to a lot of potential founders and investment possibilities. So that's kind of made us stand out. From a customer point of view, there are several large health organizations that I've been talking with and have had in my pipeline that, once we got the Google funding, they've circled back, and I'm getting, emails from high level executives in those organizations about meeting and talking how we can work together. So this funding has been really, really transformative for us.
Nice. Zaire, did you have anything?
Yeah, I think that again, the type of example that is set, like for where we are, right? Like we're building the kind of company that it's like, yeah, we could bootstrap, we could one day at a time, and so far we have bootstrapped at least through grants and just the revenue that we've generated. But for what we're building, it's not really something that's like rocket science in terms of what we're building, right? What we recognize is though is that the time is perfect for what we're doing because the demand is there on both sides of our market. We already proved the concept successfully in multiple markets across the US. We were able to do it with an MVP. So it's one of those things where it's like we can accelerate our growth and go ahead and produce the impact that we want to produce across the country and then be able to expand and do this more quickly. Or we could one step it. And so to have this kind of capital infused is great, both for pushing that needle forward and also, again, like as I mentioned, like sort of the impact investment needle forward, where it gives people examples of like what that can look like. And for us, like our cap table looks like we want the community to be sharing in our growth. We want our employees to share in our growth. And that's an equal pie across investors, founders, community, and we see our community as investors and stakeholders as well. So it's one of those things where it's kind of novel. Like we want parts of our profit line to go back into a fund that supports the community. We want our business to be uplifting community. We want our cap table to do the same thing. And I just don't think that that's necessarily something that everyone's been accustomed to doing. But we recognize that if we want to have a different future, that maybe we want to do some different things. And so I just think that this has allowed for broader discussion to open up. Like to Amanda's point, she said something earlier that I resonated with, which is that she's nurturing relationships. Her team's nurturing relationships with investors. And I think for us, we're doing the same. We're just having dialogue about what do deals look like going forward. So it's not like a, oh, yes or no. It's more so like a, well, what does this actually look like? And I think that Google has helped in broadening that discussion.
No, that's awesome. It's clear the impact that a large company can have on, Black founders in particular, right? And so by making an intentional commitment like this, I think, in early talks with the Google for Startups team, they were looking at this situation as their commitment, not as being a one-off, just in general in the overall ecosystem. It was a hope that other large companies might do something similar. It may not necessarily be $5 million or something like that, but maybe it's 100,000, maybe it's 500,000, maybe it's $1 million. Maybe it says, hey, we're going to go 20 million. So I think, you all can clearly see in the audience, you all can clearly see how a large company can make an impact on a startup. It can advance, their investor conversations, be very clear. Large companies can impact Black founders. It can advance their investor conversations, their customer conversations, help them probably with hiring. In a second, we're going to talk on mental health, and I think that's a big thing. It makes them feel better. It's nothing like just having someone credible saying, hey, you're doing a good job, and here's the recognition for you, right? So before we kind of get into actually, you know what? Let's talk about that right now. So we allude to the credibility. I'm gonna shelve the part about what some of you all may do in the future. Let's talk about, and a lot of you all know me on the panel, and maybe people in the audience too. Like I don't necessarily like to focus on problems a ton. I really want to talk about solutions, but I do understand it's tough being a Black founder. It's tough being a Black founder. 2020 aside, we're in 2020, and so can you all talk a little bit about the need for, you know, mental health and the attention that gives to it as it relates to being a Black founder, and then maybe even if you could, like how maybe this Black Founders Fund made you feel a little bit better. So again, we're in 2020 means pandemic. 2020 means racial justice uprising in this country, and so you know it's tough, right? So can anybody speak to how they've been feeling and maybe how a commitment like this from Google helped out?
I can hop in really quick there. I'll just say, generally speaking, the founder's journey is a lonely journey, right? You have a lot of businesses who are working in very small teams to begin with, a lot of solo founders who are just working on their businesses alone most of the time. And then you compound that with the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic and we cannot physically connect with one another in the ways that we used to be able to. So I'll just say, like, the Google programming in general, so other Google programming that I've been a part of, as well as the Black Founders Fund, have created a network of people that you can kind of lock arms with virtually and march through this journey together with, right? So now 76 people around the country have this common thread of being the recipient of this award from Google. And that's 75 people now that I can reach out to who are going through similar things that I'm going through as a founder. And that has a tremendous impact on mental health as it relates to just being in a silo as a founder and not being able to connect with people, to have that commonality between another group of people now.
Yeah.
I'll just say,
I'll add to that.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Go ahead. Okay. I was just going to add quickly on what Julia said, that Joey, you have something called Founders Therapy that you have invited all 76 of us to, and that you've been doing, for some time with other founders in the Atlanta area. Now it's, of course, expanding across the nation. And just having that free space to come, to listen, to talk, maybe have a beverage, maybe have a hanky, whatever it is, but to understand the commonality of what we're all challenged with, celebrate wins, and talk through some of the ways that we can support each other. I think just having that free space on a regular basis with like-minded folks matters a lot and goes a long way towards, mental health being cared for, and a sense of community to make sure that we're all right. So kudos to you for that program, which is really impactful.
Appreciate it. Claire?
I know, like, growing up, I'd hear the phrase, like, hurt people. And I feel like it's also something that's reflected in, like, the book, The E-Myth, which is an entrepreneurial myth. The basis of the book is that, the state of the founder's health is the state of the company is a direct reflection of the founder's health. And so I guess to extend that quote of, like, hurt people, it'd be like, healthy founders, breed healthy companies. And so, like, if you're clear-minded, then your company is likely going to be clear-minded. If you're messy, and so on and so forth. And I think that it's just super important as we're not only building companies, but we're building companies at a time where we're really considering, what kind of future do we really want to have, and what's going to be our impact. And so it all starts at home. So yeah, really, really, really important.
Amanda, Yared, Sean, I don't know if there's anything y'all want to add.
My biology is intertwined with other people. I mean, this is I come from a collectivist culture that me by my own, way inadequate in more than and so this ecosystem that Joey, that you have been building, and Jewel as Google. I can't even say enough about how important it's in being to be seen. I mean, just the idea that when I go to these investor on stuff, and I tell people it's like a family reunion that I was not really invited, and I stand out in more than one ways, and so this idea of being connected to in the last 8 months, and then on another program the last 3 months, we have literally made progress in the last 8 months that we have in the last 3 years. And what changed is not just the money at Google, It is in being, kind of, again, being seen and seeing other people, being recognized and recognizing them. And not being that terrible loneliness that comes to being a founder. And that is kind of a double whammy if you look at it from, white boys will raise, $1 million and fail, and that's not really an issue. And so there is a lot more than just being in a group. It's the idea that we're connected to one another, an essential part of.
That's big. That's big. I don't know, Sean. Can you hear us? Or do you have any thoughts on it?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I was muted. I have like 3 quick thoughts. Number one, I grew up, my dad was an entrepreneur as well. And I remember him saying that he felt like he didn't have anybody to talk with. And I'd be like, Dad, we're all right here. Like, what? And now that I'm get it, even though we were his family, we weren't taking the journey with him. And so there were things that he needed to talk about that we really couldn't relate to because we weren't building the business. I would help him, like we all did things to chip in, but we weren't seeing the same concerns and sharing those with him the way that he was. So having this network of founders that Google, has given us all by bringing us all together has been really valuable for mental health. The other thing is that a lot of us have long sales cycles. My B2B is to the healthcare industry, and the healthcare industry this year has all been focused on COVID, and chronic disease has kind of taken a backseat. That's now starting to change. But having that validation from Google really kind of helps break up that long stretch of, am I going to get anything? Is anybody interested? So that really helps. I think the third thing, as Carolyn mentioned, is that Google, and Joey, certainly you have done this with Founders Therapy and then just individual conversations. And then Google, part of the program that we were in, also provided us one-on-one access to therapists if we needed it, which is really grateful. Many people don't know that this year, in addition to all the craziness of 2020 and starting a business, I was also a caregiver to an elderly relative, which is a burden in itself. And it was really challenging. And I'm seeing more entrepreneurial programs and accelerators offering support for founders for mental health and then just practical things, and realizing that we're all not just head and computer, this idea of what an entrepreneur is, but we have lives. So I know the Russell Center is doing, things to address founder mental and physical well-being. I just saw a program last night on Twitter called 776, where when they give funding, they allocate a certain percentage of it for the founder's well-being. And that could be just like, time to go spend it on time to go have a vacation, or, if you need childcare or you need somebody to cook for you or whatever, just to have that percent of money to spend on yourself to take care of yourself is really important. So I hope that this trend that we're seeing, companies like Google kind of stepping up to realize holistically what an entrepreneur needs continues.
No, no, this is the reason why large companies should be supporting Black founders. This is the impact it has. And so, there's short-term impact, there is medium-term impact. And now I want to kind of go a little bit, let's zoom out, let's kind of fast forward to maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Some of you all have talked about maybe having aspirations of being investors or mentors or running maybe your own entrepreneur support programs. Again, as a former startup founder myself, and now I've been supporting founders for the past 10 other founders for like the past 10 years. I'm starting to see some trends on maybe, people like you that, okay, I can see this person being a mentor. I can see this person being an investor after they exit or something to that effect. I see certain traits in people. And so do any of you all have any thoughts? And to be clear, this is extra, right? Some of y'all may be like, yo, in 10 years, I'm sitting on the beach. I'm trying to make this money. I'm sitting on the beach and I'm good. And that's okay, right? But do you all have any thoughts on kind of, taking the impact here and kind of giving it back a little later on? If so, how?
Absolutely. I'll say I'm already mentoring and coaching founders who are just getting started on their journey. And I cannot wait to be an angel investor and to write checks for incredible founders like the ones on this panel so that they don't have to struggle and fumble around for extra time trying to figure out how to get seed capital. I look forward to being, there not only to help people financially, but to give them advice and make connections that will make their journey smooth.
Nice. Anybody else?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I know I speak for myself. I look forward to the day where I can support other venture capital firms like Collab Capital that have the same sort of thesis that I have on how to build a business and put my knowledge to use, right? I think that I'm a big believer in sort of what Kamala Harris says. I can be the first, but I shouldn't be the last, right? And so I also believe in collaborative, collective movements. And so there's no need for me to go out and start my own VC firm. But I definitely look forward to supporting the ones that are out there that are just getting started today, that have been long-standing. So yes, it's definitely something that I look forward to.
And I'll add too quickly. There's a lot of, I was just gonna say there's a lot of data out there that says that the key to closing the wealth gap that we have in this country is through the economic engine of entrepreneurship, right? And as we've already talked about it, and we continue to talk about it, a large barrier to entrepreneurship for a lot of people, especially from the Black community, is just having a lack of resources and a lack of access to capital to really grow that business to its full potential. So I think everyone on this panel and all the recipients of this award will probably agree. Not only are we interested, but I think we're obligated to continue giving back in that way if we have any vested interest in helping to kind of facilitate the closure of the wealth gap in America. So I wholeheartedly plan on doing that, but I also do want to sit on the beach as well. So
I'm already participating in a group of angel investors, and it's kind of a group for people who want to become angel investors. So it's educational as well. And they have a requirement that you invest in a company, at least $500 in a company every year. And so this is my second year. So I've already made some little investments. And I think it's valuable for me now because I can better understand what investors are looking for when they're looking at my company, but also it's helping me prepare for the day when I can become the angel investor that I want to be. And I'm really interested in pre-seed and seed, for founders who don't have the friends and family connection and can't get that round. I was lucky in that I had family assets. I sold a family farm to be able to bootstrap my company. But in a perfect world, I wouldn't have been able to, I would have had to do that. I would have had those resources. So I'm interested in the kind of investing where I can help companies get to the point where they can, find product market fit and those kinds of things. Also, just as a hobby, but also an investment, is I really love modern art, and I'm very interested in investing in modern art when I make it big, when the company makes it big. That there's a studio here in Atlanta, a Black-owned studio that actually teaches workshops on how you can build community wealth by investing in artists. So that's something both from a community standpoint and a personal passion that I'm interested in doing.
Awesome, Sean. Can you drop that art gallery in chat, the link to that, or just the name of it?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know, Yard or Zaire, if you have any thoughts. If not, we can.
The next couple of years, even sooner, I want to give up being a CEO. That's I'm much better being left alone with the research and the innovation and the pilots and all this stuff, and so that's been that's my priority is to find someone that I can pass on that role. And God bless you guys for building 3, 4, 5 companies. This is my first one and the last one. I'm done.
I feel you. I feel
So, so, so I'll go back to the academy, or there's a lot of other stuff that I'm interested in doing, but this is, I'm out.
I feel you. I feel you. I know, Zaire, if you have any thoughts, but
No, I definitely feel that. I see myself being very useful on a systems level, really evaluating the type of models that we're looking at going forward. So I really do love being able to participate, even already participating thus far in a lot of the thoughts in the impact investment space, whether it be through groups like Mission Investors Exchange, Joey, you inviting us into the SoCap space and then getting to connect with leadership there. Just the world of benefit corporations, the world of like .eco and sustainable development goals. Like, to me, like, I love the fact I love being a part of this ecosystem that's thinking about how do we do things for good, and let purpose lead before profit, right? Just let profit follow, let purpose lead. And so, yeah, I mean, that excites me the most. So, I mean, definitely building companies is great, but I'll be honest, like I feel like this has just been a great journey in developing models that we can see work, and then they can be applied, and then many others can do them. I'll be able to write a ton of materials. I'll be able to sit in rooms and we can talk and consult. But also I'm a believer in not just theorizing. I'm a believer in practicing. So for me, I think it's important to embody. So yeah, I don't want to say I'm where Yard is, but I would say I sit in the middle. I'm excited about ecosystem building.
there it is.
Can I chime in? I want to just say one more thing quickly. So for a lot of us on the panel, and probably for a lot of people in the room as well, investing, we look at it as aspirational. But to Sean's point, you can invest a little bit of money, right? There are tons of platforms out there that will allow you to invest small amounts of money in companies that you think have potential longevity, right? So quick story, there's an investor named Jason Calacanis, and he invested like $25,000 in Uber, I think, and that $25,000 ended up becoming $100 million for him, right? So $25,000 is kind of a lot of money. I think a lot of people probably don't have 25K laying around, but imagine if 25 people could just scrape up $1,000, right, and go to one of these crowdfunding platforms and invest that in a business from our community, and for that business to later have a huge exit like Uber did, and you create 25 millionaires within our community, right? So that's a real possibility. So I just wanted to let everybody know that you can invest today without having boatloads of money and help the community.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Great story. So I want to say, before we kind of go into this next question, if you have any, if you're in the audience, any questions, please post them in chat. As we're looking to wrap up in the next 15 minutes. So again, if you have any questions, please post them in chat. Let's talk about 2020 for a second. I mean, we can't ignore it. We zoomed. We talked about the impact that the Black Founders Fund had on you right now. We zoomed out 5-10 years, but let's bring it back, right? What lessons have you all learned from 2020?
I'd say the biggest lesson for me is how resilient we are. Most people don't realize we've had to work with fewer resources for a really long time. And one of the things I've been saying is if you've been blindfolded the whole time and the lights go out, you're ahead of the game for everybody else. And so Black and Brown founders are built to be successful. Every single one of the founders on this panel has grown their businesses, has generated revenue in the middle of a pandemic, and seeing that is incredible. So just always believing and knowing that we can and will continue to build our businesses even in the hardest of times. Also, it's been an opportunity. The silver lining is there's been more grant money available, cash rewards available, and we've had access to office hours with folks, whether it's an influencer, an investor, just people we've wanted to connect with. Suddenly, they're much more available. Not only are they sitting at home, but they've made their contact information available, especially for Black founders. There's also been tools on techforblackfounders.com, which I'll also drop in the chat. So there have been a few silver linings that we're able to leverage, but the overall thing that I've learned is the resilience is there, and we're going to be more than okay, especially with all that 2021 is destined to bring.
Nice. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd say for me, it's just that sometimes going slow is good. I've told this story before, and at the beginning of the pandemic, we slowed completely up. And in terms of growth, in terms of progress for a lot of different reasons. But by the time that we were able to plan and strategize through the slowness, we sped up probably faster than we would have if we would have kept pace. So I tell everybody sometimes, you know, a wrench in the plan and you have to go slower is a good thing. So embrace the slowness when it comes.
Anyone else? Lesson learned 2020?
Stop. It's a one request. So if there isn't any white folks listening, stop voting for a guy that is completely crazy. So that's we, you know, our life has been impacted. People we know, people. So this is, I don't, you know, can't say enough about it, but leadership matters, and you know, politics, but you know, you bring someone like that, and the impact is dramatic. The whole kids been stressed out for the, you know, fighting this guy every day, and so they had to transition from Obama to this guy, and so I have to send them to therapy just to have to transition from from that. So that's looks like we're gonna be it before 2021.
Correct. Leadership does matter. Leadership does matter. We learned that in 2020. Anybody else?
Like, I really see ownership as stewardship, you know, something that's more of a responsibility, not necessarily like I'm controlling things, but more so it's like, hey, I'm now responsible. So the more you have, the more you're responsible for. And that's just like a really important thing to kind of be mindful of when we step up to the plate in whatever space that we're in. 2020 definitely shows that, because in a lot of ways it peeled back layers of like, okay, all these things are, you could say bullshit, or you could say maybe you have too much on your plate. So let's clear that off so we can focus on the things that truly matter, and we're able to, you know, drive things forward through. So just in terms of, I guess, a lesson from the year, I would say that. But then I would also just say that's also, you know, something I feel like going forward that's really good to keep in mind. Right? Again, it's not a game. Entrepreneurship in particular is not for the faint of heart. But if you're going to do it, at least do it with something that'll provide you with the drive consistently to keep going, and, you know, gives you what you that it replenishes its own fuel for you.
Right. I don't know, Julius or Sean, no pressure.
Yeah, I think I don't want to be redundant.
I think it's. I think that 2020 has definitely taught us to be resilient and learn how to pivot and be able to look at things in different ways. And also for me, the importance of having a community around you that's supportive. As separated as we were physically, we certainly found digital spaces to be together and to encourage one another and share our successes, which is an energy boost. So I just can't underscore enough the importance of having a community, however you build that community, you know, whether it's virtual or in person.
Julius. Not
to be redundant, but I would just say, you know, obviously the resilience that has been necessary in 2020, but also I think a key learning is that as many businesses as we've seen fail, we've also seen a lot of businesses do very, very well as a result of COVID. So I would say, I mean, obviously no one could have predicted this, but I think it bodes well for entrepreneurs to have kind of different products or different streams of revenue built into your businesses that may thrive in one situation versus another. It's the same as investing, right? You're taught to kind of diversify your investments, and I think we should look at our businesses the same way. Diversify your different products and streams of income so you can make sure that you're able to thrive in different environments.
That's good. That's good. Anybody else? I mean, again, anybody in the audience, if you have any questions, let us know. I do have just one last question for the panelists here, and I'm going to kick it to Sean first. one, I know she has a delay, but also just two, that she's really good at this part. Let's talk about gratitude. You know, money aside. So a lot of you all talked about resiliency and a lot of great stuff in this last question, but money aside, that you've been able to receive recently from Google for Startups. This is a general question about 2020, but it could also be for Google as well. What are you grateful for in 2020?
Definitely community, as I've mentioned before. I think that all of the opportunities that have come my way because of the connections that I've had with Goody Nation and Google for Startups. We've been able to establish a partnership with AARP Innovation Labs, which has been really huge for us, as well as, you know, getting some more clients in the pipeline. And I think through all of this, just being able to develop resiliency and to see that other people recognize my value has been really huge. So I'm grateful for those things.
Carolyn?
Yeah, +1 to most of what Sean said, for sure. My health is very important to me. I'm grateful, especially during this pandemic, to be healthy. I am grateful for my tribe, all the folks on the panel and those who aren't with us today, who are also a part of our community. I'm grateful for new partnerships. We actually just secured a partnership with Sony, so I'm very grateful for that. And I am grateful for my team. They are incredible. They too are resilient, and they are helping us to grow stronger and better every day. So those are the things that I wake up being very thankful for, and thankful for time with you guys as well.
Awesome.
So thanks for having me.
I'll go Amanda and then Julius.
Yeah, so I'm grateful for my team, number one. My co-founders, I have probably the best co-founders. We hold each other accountable. We lift each other up. So incredibly grateful for my team, grateful for my health, and grateful for the growth that we were and are able to see through this year. So those are the three things that I'm grateful for.
Awesome. Julius?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm super grateful for health. I think some people have said that already, but I do not take it for granted that I can get up out of bed and walk on my own 2 feet every day. That's like such a small thing that we just don't even think about every day, but a lot of people cannot do that. And then also freedom, right? The fact that I get to wake up every day and control my destiny and work on this company and empower other people through the vehicle of my company is, I just feel very fortunate to do that. So I'm super thankful for that as well.
Awesome. Zaire? And then we'll go Zaire and then Garrett.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one thing that was spoken to me at the beginning of this year, it wasn't long after being up at WeWork with you all, Joey. It was actually Justin Dawkins brought up a parable of like soil and seed. And he was basically like, you know, the idea is that the seeds are the things that we are focused on, the things that we're doing. And we can plant seeds anytime, but the soil being us. And so it being very important to nurture ourselves so that, you know, it doesn't matter what seeds we plant if we're not healthy. And so it's one of those things where I'm really grateful this year for healing, and in many ways, just returning, you know, not even just to, I would say to my whole self in terms of like listening to my intuition, my instinct, kind of going beyond just thinking about things and analyzing, but getting into a space of like, how does this really feel? You know what I mean? And kind of following some of those more, they would say intangible gifts that we all have. And then also in even cherishing family, cherishing anyone that I'm spending my time with. I mean, if we're spending time together, ideally, we're spending it in a way that's authentic. And so I'm just really grateful for our authentic relationship, grateful for healing. And actually, just so you all know, that was something that Google took in extra steps to work on our behalf to provide spaces for healing, even through the gifts that they sent. They sent tea and they sent herbals and things like that could be helpful at just relaxing at home. They provided connections to therapy and counseling companies and so on and so forth. So just really want to give a huge shout out for that. And for the warm hearts of everybody that's here, you know, on the stage, Carolyn, Julia, so on and so Sean. We've talked multiple times throughout this year. So thank y'all.
I love it. You all right?
There's been losses in my family this year. I lost my brother, in my mother. So the thing that um, that made it tolerable is that I was able to be with to the very end. So there is, sometimes we get caught up in, grinding and looking 10 years ahead of time. And then something like this happens. And I'm down to earth, and so it's, it, it, when I come back from my brothers after my brother died, you and a bunch of people did the video, uh, and just I've been to these kind of incubator places and that stuff, but I've never been that someone actually cared enough that they're able to put together a video. And so it was I mean that is pretty significant. So part of that is when we have into our places, it's a whole different attitude about who you are, what you're supposed to do. Right? And so I'm it's been painful. At the same time, I'm grateful that I can be available. I was emotionally involved, and then being able to be in a community that is supportive.
Awesome. I think it's very fitting that the sun has come out as we start talking about gratitude. I can see it shining on your face, Yard. Yeah, I love it. So I know we're right at time. The closing ceremonies for Startup Week started in 2 minutes right now, and I know David had a question. I'm going to try to address it. While I do that, if you all could drop your contact, if you want to let people get in contact with you, or I know some of you all already dropped like websites, maybe even LinkedIn profiles or Twitter, whatever it is, in chat. So the people in the audience can support you all and also the other award winners as well. I can tell you to support them. My ask is this. So David asked, how can we all support each other? My tactical ask for these Black Founders Award winners, and also this extends out to people in general, be intentional on asking them what their needs are and then opening up your network to make it happen. In business, we know that relationship matters and no entrepreneur can survive without a strong support network. So tactically, what I can tell you all is go to goodynation.org, click on that link that says Black Founders Fund, and you'll see a list of not only these amazing panelists, but their other fellow award winners and the actual needs they need filled. And so then click on a link to fill them if you know somebody that knows somebody, So that's how we can support each other. Be intentional around, supporting them relative to their needs. Take the extra step and open up your network, even if it doesn't seem like it's going to come back to you eventually, right? Be intentional, be a force for good. Everyone has a role to play in making the world a better place for us all, a more sustainable place for us all. And you can do it especially by helping Black founders. So thank you all. This is the end of the inclusive innovation track for Techstars Startup Week, excuse me. It's been amazing. Thank you all for the report. And then I think you can hop over to the main stage for the closing ceremonies. But again, thanks for coming out and please support these founders. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
See y'all moving forward.
Bye.